Good morning. Happy Monday, everyone. So, I wanted to talk about something that has been coming up a lot in my client sessions lately, and it's this notion of self-work as relationship work. And so many of us think that they're separate, right? We can get caught up in that thinking of, if I am angry with this person, then it's like their problem. It's something that they need to shift. And that's just simply not the case. So, for the purposes of today, when I talk about relationships, I'm not just meaning the romantic ones, but any relationship that we have, whether it's with a coworker or a child, a parent, a neighbor. So all relationships are what I am going to be referring to when I say relationship today. So relationships are the most powerful vehicle for awakening and transformation that we have available to us. And every single interaction, every single person, every single just interaction has the potential to be a lesson and to be a teacher for us. And so when we think about it from that perspective, we can enter into every engagement very mindfully and with a sense of curiosity, because every single person is acting as your mirror. So back to that example I was giving in the beginning of, if I'm angry with this person, then it's their problem. It's not something that's within me. That's actually not the case. So if you're triggered by this mirror that's being held up in front of you, what's it doing? Well, when I look into a mirror, I see myself. So that trigger is showing you something inside of you that you're not in right relationship with. And so then there is the opportunity for that inner alchemy, that inner self-work to take place. So see this magic thing that happens when we allow relationships to work in that capacity. And where did I want to go with this? I love this topic so much. External relationships are only one example. The most important relationship that we will ever have is with ourselves. And I know that that's such an overused cliche that is said so much, but it's incredibly true. So you have your internal relationship with self, but even that has so many layers and so many nuances that it's not just as simple as like, oh, my relationship with Devon. Well, Devon has many different layers. She's got her physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, for example, right? And that's just like barely scratching the surface. Then I have the pieces of me that might be wounded from childhood, or the pieces of me that feel angry sometimes, or sad, or really bubbly and happy and want to like dance around the house in my underwear listening to Taylor Swift. So I have all of these different pieces of myself. And when we're not in right relationship with all of these different pieces, that's when the mirror is held up, the trigger will come. And so this notion of alchemy, love it. This notion of alchemy, internal and external alchemy. So in a relationship, you have two things. All right, that's shadow puppet time. We have two things. We have either, I can continue this example of, let's start with the external first, because that's the most obvious. It's the most tangible. I have got me and my partner, okay? Me and my husband. And together, we are the relationship. Separately, we are Mike and Devon, all right? When we come together, you've got two things coming together to make that third energy, and that's when we get to really have fun with these alchemical principles. So we make this third energy when we're together, this duo. And this duo forms the relationship, and we have this little sacred space, this sacred cauldron of becoming. Because we are now in this safe space where the mirrors are constantly held up, and we get to constantly be in communication with our internal landscape when we are triggered and with each other. So it's this continual evolutionary process. It's never stagnant. It's never still. It is always birthing constantly this third thing, our relationship. And the thing that I feel isn't being talked about or focused on enough when it comes to any relating is relating within the self first. So, an example of that within me, I'm me, and I'm so multidimensional, and so are you, right? Like, I'm not special. This is just what happens when we come into the human form. We are extremely rich and textured and so many layers. So if I am going about my day and something triggers me, okay, I don't know. Let's see. When was the last time I was triggered? Well, yesterday was rough for me. I had a lot of anger yesterday. It was my first Mother's Day where my mother was not in physical form. She passed last year. So I was feeling a lot of anger, right? A lot of anger yesterday. And at first I was resisting it. So that was me and this anger. And my relationship to the anger was not a healthy one. It was not creating this third thing by me engaging with it because I was resisting it. And that which we resist magnifies and intensifies until finally I may or may not have kind of snapped at my partner because I was not in relationship, in communication, creating a relationship with this anger, this side of me. So my internal landscape, my internal relationships were not very cohesive yesterday. That third energy was not being birthed. So this anger was here. I was resisting it. There was automatically, this is where I need a third hand, a breakdown in the relationship. There was no relationship. Relationship is that third entity that comes through. So when I decided to go look at this anger, this is me deepening my relationship with myself, doing that inner self work, that inner alchemy of transforming something base, this base human emotion of anger, transforming that into something else, into this third thing. So I had me being guided by my ever-present, more graceful high self, and this anger, this kind of denser, very base human emotion. I allowed them to come together and to do their thing. I always say allow your wounded human self and your high self to make ecstatic love, and then through that comes your life, your third energy, your creation, your creative expression. So I took some time with myself yesterday and turned to my favorite resources, some plant medicines, some drumming, some dancing, some art, some journaling, and really allowed myself to get down with this anger, crying and really feeling what this need was, what this anger was really about. And so I created the space, because that's the most important step right there for any relationship that is new or old, anywhere in the middle. It needs a space, it needs a container, it needs a cauldron. So I created the space. I had the anger as my catalyst. I had my high self kind of guiding and watching over and ensuring that I didn't totally succumb to it, because a lot of times with these lower energies or these triggers, we can very easily, because we are still human and it's okay, there's no good or bad in any of this, but we can very easily kind of wallow and succumb to it and not work with it intentionally. And all of these things are really sacred invitations and initiations and teachers with so much medicine for us. So that's where having that strong connection to our higher self and to our more spiritual, subtle energies gives us the power and the strength and the discipline to show up and to work with the anger. So I had that. I had the space set, had the high self, the angry self working together. All of me is welcome. And I danced with it, literally and metaphorically, and I worked with it. And I am now in deeper communion, deeper relationship with myself. I had so much clarity and breakthrough around my next steps, around some things that I had been feeling blocked about over the last week. And my third energy, so that third thing that arises when two things come together, whether they're the intangible realms of ourselves and our own internal relationships, our own internal relating, or they're the two things that come together to make the third, like when two humans come together to make a relationship. And like I said, this is any relationship. It's romantic, it's friend, it's parent and child, it's any relationship. So that's what I did. And that's me doing that inner self work, that inner internal alchemy, to where I am now clearer and stronger and more in touch with what I want and what I need. And guess what? That makes me someone who other people kind of want to relate with more. So my husband and I had a beautiful kind of reconnection yesterday, and I got to explain to him where I was and how I was feeling, and the breakthrough, the clarity that I had after making sweet love with my anger and allowing it to speak and have a space. And I am now ready for an amazing week and am in a more powerful place to show up for my clients. So ultimately, what I am wanting to say is relationship with others starts with relating with yourself, and projecting onto others or feeling really triggered by others is really an invitation for yourself to look within. So without that missing component, you're going to keep perpetuating the same old stuff on the outside. So it's what I always say and what I'm always teaching is that the subtle creates the gross. So those subtle pieces of you are creating your gross experience, your physical 3D existence, how you're relating with others, how you are feeling and moving through your life, how you are showing up in your work, how your health is manifesting in your physical body. It all starts on the inside, and whatever is happening on those subtle realms of you, those emotional, mental, and spiritual realms. And so the practice of that internal alchemical process and working with these things inside of you, it can feel a little daunting and a little scary. And what's more scary, continuing that cycle that is clearly not working and is causing dis-ease, dysfunction, dis-ease, the lack of ease in your life, or giving yourself, an hour and a half on a Sunday afternoon or any afternoon really, to just kind of get down with it. And I think a lot of us, we feel, and I know I've had this in my own personal experience, where it's like my emotional body is inconvenient, right? It's ever changing. It's not safe. It's inconvenient. It's like, oh, those emotions and those old wounds could just like pop up whenever I'm triggered. And the more compassion that we have with the self, the more internal work that we're doing, the less that happens, because we're digging under the surface. So they're not just living right under the surface. And you can see how all of this translates into the physical 3D world, into communicating with others and relating with others. So it really does all start within, and strengthening those internal relationships and being in communication with all pieces. And so think of how you show up for your beloveds, or if you have children. I guarantee that a lot of times the way that you speak to yourself and the different pieces of yourself that show up and need some attention isn't how you speak to those people, right? Yeah, so bringing that love back in, letting that energy that you have for others that you're always giving out, kind of collect it and let yourself bathe in it so you're receiving it as well. And it becomes this beautiful give and take between you and others, because you're constantly strengthening that relationship within, so you have more to then give on the outside. And there's just so much more harmony, and you get to also be the stand and the inspiration for those around you. And so imagine if we were all engaging in these practices and these processes even more. Yeah. So I invite you this week to really pay attention to what inside of you needs attention. And these are those things we get to catch now before they start to really manifest physically. And so by the time it's kind of here on the physical plane, whether it's ill health or, exploding at your partner over some stupid little thing like I did yesterday, it's not like it's too late. However, there were signs and other symptoms before it got to be manifested physically, if that makes sense. So identify something that needs attention. And then give it the space, set the container, and let it be the catalyst for the breakthrough, for the clarity, for your initiation, your next steps, and really work with it intentionally and see what's there for you. And let it be this amazing catalyst for this third thing to emerge, because there's something more for you there. There's something else. There's amazing healing. There's amazing transformation. I was gonna say transportation. I mean, yeah, transformation, transportation to your next place. Like it's all right there within you. So no more resisting. Allow your high self and these little pieces of yourself that really want your attention and have something to share. Very important. Let them just make ecstatic love and create this third thing, which is the nourishing, beautiful, clear, purposeful life that you're really looking for. And so let that be the space that you live from, that you live in, that you operate from, to then go and relate with others and just like watch the freaking magic unfold. And please share. I'm so curious to see how this works for you this week. And if there are any questions, pop them down below. I'm here. I love you. I'll see you soon.